So let me present to you the outline for your final paper for your financial statements analysis. As I said, guys, there are two final outputs. In lieu of the final exams, you have two final outputs. One is a financial statements analysis. The other one is a case study. Here, I'm presenting the outline for the financial statements analysis. So you have, of course, the cover page, and then the table of contents, and then the company and the comparison background. Why is it company and comparison background? When you do financial statements analysis, it has to be taken in the context of a benchmark. So you have to compare the performance of the company with a competitor company. So for example, if you're choosing, for example only, but I don't suggest this because these are difficult companies. You just choose, ang suggestion ko, mga manufacturing companies, wag guys yung financial institutions like banks kasi ang hirap ng mga financial statements nun. Unless you're a banker, masyado kasi ang daming mga accounts nila na so difficult to explain, no? So you choose preferably manufacturing companies para medyo mas madaling ma-explain yung mga accounts nila. So there are actually two companies that you're going to choose. One is the company of your choice, and the other one is the competitor. So dalawa dapat yun, no? So you're going to discuss the company background, sino yung mga board of directors nila. This is important kasi sabi nga natin yung issue ng governance, no? Kasi dati, guys, yung mga board of directors, kahit sino-sino lang yan. Ngayon, meron na tayong tinatawag na rules on the board of directors. So it will be good for us to read on, for example, ano yung mga requirements ni SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, as far as the choice of the board of directors. Dapat may mga independent board of directors. Dapat din meron talagang nakakaalam ng finance, okay? And then you discuss the basic industry background, okay? Anong industry sila? Give some details about the industry. And then ano ba yung market? Sino ba yung market nitong dalawang competitors na to? At saka ano yung mga financial objectives sila? So that will be your chapter 1. Chapter 2 will be a summary of the financial ratios. Okay, so aaralin natin to itong mga financial ratios na to. So that will be your chapter 2. Naka-summary siya, naka-tabular form siya. Okay? Meron dito guys, meron ditong DuPont. Okay, I'll be explaining what this is when we go to module 2. This is a measure of the return on equity. No? And then chapter 3 will be, we will now subdivide the different ratios into liquidity. So sa liquidity ratios guys, may papakita yung computation, discussion, and interpretation. Ganun din sa asset management, debt management, and profitability. Lahat yan guys actually andi dito. No? Now, merong ratios dito na market value ratios. No? So, although kasama siya sa pag-compute, but I'm not going to require that in the chapter itself. Okay, so 4 basic ratios lang dito sa chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and then chapter 7 will be horizontal and vertical analysis. Okay, this is just an example. Okay, and I'm going to explain how that is done. Of course, chapter 7 will also include discussion and interpretation and analysis of your horizontal and vertical analysis. And then chapter 8 will be your recommendations. Pick at least 5 areas that you feel the company needs to address. And then you give recommended courses of action. Of course, you justify bakit ganun. And then conclusions and then references. For the format of the analysis, make sure to use the APA format for the font size. Of course, when you name tables and figures, there are ways to do that, no, using the APA format. So these are references that you can use. There are many other references in the internet, guys, on how to format any report using the APA format. Okay. Any questions, guys? That was a very quick explanation of how to conduct your group work for FS analysis. Any questions? Okay, so of course, guys, more questions will come in when we go to module 2. Kasi sa module 2, i-discussan natin itong topic na to, dito yung financial statements analysis. So when we get to module 2, pwede nyo nang simulan guys, no? And you should already put here, i-approve ko muna to guys, itong company. Definitely guys, I will not recommend that you choose banks kasi mahirap. Banks or financial institutions, mahirap yung FS nila. No? Wala pa tayong capability to do that kasi very difficult guys yung mga accounts ng mga banks. Unless you have worked for banks, unless you create financial statements for banks, madali nyo ma-explain yun. Pero kung hindi guys, we will not do that. No? Okay, so any more questions about this? Okay, so yung final report guys, it will be uploaded dito sa natin, dito sa, we will create folders here for group 1 hanggang group 8 for the financial statements. No? So kunyari dito, I'll create a new folder, FS group outputs or submissions. Okay. So dito sa folder na to, guys, mag-create tayo dito ng group 1 hanggang group 8. Okay? Tapos another folder for case report, no? So gawin ko na new folder case report submissions. Create. So dito nyo ilalagay yung case reports nyo. Okay? Group submission to, but you will also be required to submit individually yung outputs nyo dito sa FS at saka sa case report sa Canvas. Okay, I hope that's clear. Dito, guys, of course, isa lang magsasubmit dito for the group, but yung mga outputs nyo na nasa group nyo dito, kailangan ipopost nyo rin yung dun sa Canvas nyo individually naman. Okay? Individually. Of course, the same output that you're submitting here. Okay, any questions so far, guys? Any questions? Paki-chat na lang o paki-unmute kung may questions tayo so far about that. Yung case study report, I'm going to also give that hopefully by next week, no? Okay, that's good. Thank you so much, guys. So you have already your reference. You have already your outline. Okay, you know actually the outline, the contents that is required of you. Ibibigay ko rin yung rubric, guys, on how you will be rated, on how you will be graded. So it will be on a per chapter basis. So some chapters, of course, will have higher points compared to others. Okay. All right. So let's go now to our lesson. Balik lang tayo guys sa natin sa home natin. Okay. So far we have started discussing what finance is. Okay. So let me see kung may question dito. Sample work. Okay, let me see guys kung I'll ask permission from my students last term kung pwede silang from this is from FMDF na another subject, no, pero pareho yung outline. Pero siguro guys, actually hindi yun naman kailangan ng example kasi very clear naman yung outline at saka in the course of our discussion of module 2, makikita nyo guys kung paano kino-compute at paano ina-analyze. So it's just a matter of verbalizing it, of putting it into words. No? Kung hindi ako makahingi ng permission, kasi yung iba, guys, they don't want their work to be made as an example. So we will have to respect yung data privacy ng ng output nila. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Thank you for asking that question, Syra. All right, so let's go back, guys, very quickly. Ang target natin is to finish module 1 by next week. Pero kung hindi natin kakayanin, guys, ng Monday, isasagad na natin hanggang Wednesday. Kasi I don't really want to rush this. Okay? Ayoko yung minamadali natin na tapos hindi nyo naman pala na-gets kasi ang bilis-bilis ang explanation ko. Okay, so by way of review guys, sabi natin, finance is all about resource allocation. Knowing that any resource, particularly money, particularly cash, is very limited. So, ang question, kunyari from a corporate finance perspective, saan ba tayo maglalagay ng ano, saan ba tayo magdi-distribute ng funds natin para makapag-engage tayo ng negosyo doon? A good example here are holding companies or mother companies. Pag sinabi natin holding companies, ito yung company that handles the main operations of a, where's my digital pen? Okay. Nawala ang aking digital pen. Okay, sorry about that. How can I write kung it's missing in action? My digital pen is missing in action. Sandali lang guys. Let me, baka nalaglag sa ano. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay, so as I was saying, we know that the funds of company are limited, no? So maganda example dito ng resource allocation, yung if a company has, ano natin to? Yung mga holding companies or what is in layman's term yung mother companies, no? So yung mga mother companies, like for example si Ayala Corporation or si JG Summit, no? JG Summit, tapos si SM din, SM Group. Okay, ito yung John Gokong Way to. Ito yung mga Rubina URC, Rubina Products. Okay, so the question is, where do they engage in? In what industries and what businesses will they engage in? So they create what we call SBUs, di ba? Ano ibig sabihin ng SBUs? Strategic Business Units. So good examples of that is Ayala Corp. Alam natin na it engages in telecommunications through Globe. Tapos sa banking, BPI. Tapos meron din silang sa insurance, meron din silang sa food, meron din silang sa real estate. Okay? Meron din silang sa agriculture. So many companies form part of the Ayala group of companies. Ganoon din si JG Summit. So that's a perfect example of resource allocation, resource management, and acquisition. Okay, acquiring businesses so that their presence can be felt in a lucrative business, in a business that earns money for them. Okay, so once again, guys, sabi natin, when we talk of finance, we are looking at the different institutions, okay, the different instruments that are used and the different markets. Kasi makikita natin later on yung flow ng funds, no? Flow ng funds from one party to another party. Okay, so this is yung flow of funds natin. We're going to look into that in the course of module 1. So by next week, titingnan na natin yan. So it involves the transfer of money among individuals, businesses, and governments. Okay? So according to Kiyon, sabi natin, it's finance is concerned with the creation of economic value or wealth. No? Okay, so kasi dito sa pag-transfer ng funds, syempre, pinapaikot yung funds yan. Okay, for example, a business needs money. So kukuha siya. It will borrow funds or it will try to encourage its shareholders to infuse more capital to the company. For what purpose? Syempre to create economic value. Diba? Kaya naman humihingi ng investment ang isang organization para makapag-create siya ng economic value or wealth, no, for the shareholders. Okay, we looked at this, guys, last time. Sabi natin, ang finance, guys, maraming involvement yan as far as business decision making is concerned. Whether it's marketing, operations, HR, accounting, or IT, the influence of finance is very important. Kasi sabi natin, I think I showed this to you, kunyari sa marketing function, are we talking of introducing a new product into the market, and how will it be priced? No? So yung corporate finance, guys, may influence dito sa activity na to, or whether it's accounting or information systems. Okay, information for making better financial decisions, kasama din si corporate finance sa pag-decide dyan. Human capital, guys, or organizational behavior. OB stands for organizational behavior, or others call this OD, as science as a field, organizational development. Any decision which will involve cash outlay, may say pa rin yung finance dyan. Or even sa corporate strategy, no? In what business are we going to be engaged in? Mag-diversify ba tayo? The word there is diversification, for example. Bakit nga pala yung mga Ayala Corporation, SM, JG Summit, mga Lusiotan group of companies, no? Bakit sila, why do they have businesses in several fields? The main reason there is diversification. And the main reason for diversification is to lower the risk or mitigate against the risk. Imagine if these big companies only have only invested their money in one industry. Imagine si Ayala, kung nasa telecommunications lang siya. Kung bumagsak ang telecommunications, bagsak na sila. So a wise use of resource, guys, is to diversify its business interests. No? I-diversify nila para kung bumagsak man yung isang kunyari industry, meron pa silang ibang other industries. And minsan, usually sa mga industries, no, hindi naman sabay-sabay na affected yan. In fact, a good diversification technique is that meron tayong tinatawag na kunyari yung isang industry affected in economic situations, no, certain economic situations. Some industries, on the other hand, would have robust results, no, sa ganung klaseng economic situations. So parang nag-aano sila, they down yung isang industry, pero yung isang industry naman na up siya. So ganun yung pinaka-purpose ng diversification para ma-lower yung risk. Okay? So whether it's also operations management, kailangan pa rin yan, guys, may mga financial consequences yung mga decisions diyan. So makikita natin yung tentacles ng corporate finance can be seen in all aspects of business. Okay, so let's continue. Now let's quickly talk about the principles of financial management, because these are very important principles. Okay, so ano yung first principles natin? Okay, so there are three basic principles where corporate finance is built on. Okay, ano yung mga principles na yun? Number one is investment principle. Okay, ano ba ibig sabihin ng investment principle? Well, na-mention ko na to dati, no? Corporate finance or finance in general seeks to look for investments where, of course, the shareholder value will be maximized. So investment principle asks the question, ano bang projects, ano bang businesses ang dapat pasukan ng isang kumpanya? Okay, so it calls for capital investments as distinguished from operating expenditures. Magkaiba yun, no? Pag sinabing operating expenditures or OPEX, these are expenditures that will only benefit one operating period. Kunyari, mga transportation expenses, utilities, mga OPEX yan. Hindi yan yung sinasabi natin dito na investments. When you talk of investments here, they are capital investments and they involve CapEx. Long-term to. And this usually involve a big amount of cash. So, as a first principle in finance, investment principle, it's important that finance help in determining what projects or acquisitions to invest in. Okay? Ang difference guys, mga pala, strictly speaking, pag sinabing projects, uh, parang from the ground up, i-create yung investment na yon. Itong acquisitions, meron ng existing na, for example, company, i-acquire na lang no ng business, no? Okay, so ang operative principle dito, dapat ang pipiliin na investment should provide the company with the highest possible risk-adjusted return. Okay, take note guys, ang sabi dito, risk-adjusted return. We're going to discuss this in greater detail. Now, sasabihin ko rin dito na papasok dito guys yung concept ng WACC dito. We're going to meet this term many times, WACC. Anyone guys could tell me the meaning of WACC? Have you met this term before? Paki-chat na lang muna kung na-meet nyo na yung term na WACC. Sa accounting nyo ba, na-meet nyo na ba yan? Paki-chat na lang guys. If you have met the acronym WACC. Okay, thank you Marco. Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys. Okay, hindi nyo pa na-meet yan sa accounting subject nyo, malamang guys, kasi itong WACC, this is more a finance measure. WACC stands for weighted average cost of capital. Yeah, that's the meaning of WACC, no? Weighted average cost of capital. In a nutshell, ano ba yung concept ng WACC? WACC is a computed value, guys. Tinitingnan natin yung different financing schemes ng negosyo, no? Alam naman natin, ang financing can either come in the form of debt or equity, di ba? Utang or equity. So ang gagawin natin dyan, magko-compute tayo ng average cost niyan, weighted average cost. And then, this is a very important measure kasi ito yung ginagamit natin to determine whether a project is feasible or not. Another name for this is the hurdle rate. Hurdle rate. Okay, let me give an example. Okay, may potential na investment, tapos kinompute natin, guys, nakita natin yung return ng investment na yun na 10%. Okay, question, is the project feasible or not? What do you think is the answer, guys? Is that project good or not? Kung 10% yung return ng project. Any guess? 10% yung return ng project, ha? Would that project be feasible? Would it be good or not? Sa tingin nyo? Yes, thank you, Shaira. How about the rest? Okay, Albert, pwede na, no? Okay, pwede na. Okay, now, notice you guys, nahirapan kayong sagutin. From Marco, yes. Bakit kayo nahirapan sagutin? Kasi parang, tama, on basis natin, 10%, how do we know that that's acceptable or not? Yun ang problema pag wala tayong barometer, guys, no? Dapat may barometer tayo, dapat may benchmark tayo. And in order to answer that question, kung acceptable yung project na yun that will give the company a risk-adjusted return of 10%, we will have to compare that with a certain benchmark. Yung benchmark na yun, guys, ang tawag doon, yung WACC. Yan. Weighted average cost of capital. Okay, let's assume that the WACC is 12%. Ang ibig sabihin nun ng WACC na 12%, guys, that the cost of getting capital, whether from creditors or from owners, is 12%. If the return now of a project is 10%, now it will be easier to answer that now, no? So should we proceed with the project? Sige nga guys, paki-chat kung yes or no. I hope everyone will answer. Ulitin ko yung example ko, yung project natin 10%, yung WACC natin 12%. So the question is the project a go or a no-go? Go ba siya? Yes or no, please? Paki-chat. Go, okay. Sino pa? Syra lang may answer. How about the rest, guys? Marco, no go. Okay, Denzil, no go. Okay, yung iba, Kendrick, no go. Okay, 4 lang yung nakita kong answers, guys. How about the rest? 10% yung return ng project. WACC natin is 12%. So it should be go or no go. Okay, so divided tayo, no? Some of you are saying go, some of you are saying no go. Okay, the answer to that, guys, is this, no? Ang return, 10%. Ang cost of capital, weighted average cost of capital is 12%. So ang ibig sabihin yan, guys, kung kumukuha tayo ng funds, either from creditors or from owners, it costs the company 12%. Therefore, guys, dapat any project to be engaged in by the company should have a return that's what? Higher than the WACC or lower than the WACC? Ano dapat? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, so thank you guys for answering. Pati yung go and no go kanina, I really appreciate you answering that question. Okay, kasi when you answer, kahit na guys, hindi eksakto yung answer nyo, it's an opportunity to learn. Kasi minsan, mas natututo tayo kunyari kung ang sagot natin, it misses the mark. No? And that's a very good experience. So, as to the question a while ago, ang answer doon, no go yon. No go. Bakit? Kasi yung return ng project is lower than the weighted average cost of capital. So remember that, guys, yung WACC na yan. Importante yan sa isang negosyo, sa isang business, no? Dapat alam ng business kung ano yung weighted average cost of capital niya. Okay? And in answer to higher or lower, the return should be higher, guys. Dapat higher yung return dun sa cost of capital. Kasi take note, ang cost of capital, ang average cost of capital, guys, this is the average cost of acquiring funds. So dapat yung project natin, dapat mas mataas dun sa WACC. So if the project is lower than WACC, reject yun. If the project is higher than WACC, okay yun. Okay? So I hope that's clear, guys. Thank you so much for answering the question. Okay. Now, ano naman yung financing principle? Okay, ang financing principle, guys, ang question yan, ano ba yung tamang ano? Ano ba yung tamang structural mix? Pag sinabi natin capital structure mix, ito yung percentage ng debt at saka percentage ng equity, no? So 50-50 ba siya? O 80-20? O 30-70? 30% yung debt? Okay, so let me ask you guys. Let me ask you, oy, sorry, ano nangyari? Ala, nawala yung sinulat ko. No? Okay, let me ask you guys. Okay, what do you think should be the best capital structure ng isang company? Pag sinabing capital structure, ilang percentage yung debt, ilang percentage yung equity? May I seek your idea, guys, your opinion? Ano ba daw dapat ang pinakamagandang capital structure? Pakilagay lang dito yung answer nyo, guys. Kunyari, 30, 30-70, 30/70. So I just want to see your idea, guys. Sige nga. Equity yung shareholder. No? Equity is the infusion ng mga shareholders. Okay. Thank you, Kendrick, for that question. So, di ba ang accounting formula natin, assets is equal to liabilities plus equity. Yung liabilities, yung percentage na inutang, yung equity, yung percentage ng pinovide ng owners, ng shareholders. Did that answer your question, Kendrick? Okay, sige, thank you. O, sige guys, ano yung answer nyo? Paki-sagot nyo dyan, paki-chat nyo kung ano sa tingin nyo ang pinakamagandang capital structure. Pag sinabing capital structure, guys, yung ilang percent debt, ilang percent equity. Opinion nyo lang, guys. Sige. 0-100. Okay. Thank you, Marco. No? May 50-50. Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Si Sofia, 20-80. Okay. How about the rest, guys? 595 si Syra, okay. Halos pareho kay Marco na 0 to 100. Okay, any other? Si Sophia, 2080, okay. 3070 si Denzil. I'm konti pa lang guys yung nagsasabi ng opinion nila on what is the best capital structure. How about the rest? What's your idea? What's your preference? Kunyari kayo yung CEO ng business na yan, kaya kayo yung CFO. What do you think should be the optimal capital structure? Ano yung pinakamagandang capital structure? 80-20. Okay, si Kendrick naman, 80 on the debt, 20 on the equity. Si Caleb, 25-75. 25 on the debt, 75 on the equity. No? Okay, so we're seeing different answers here, no? We're seeing different perceptions or quote-unquote opinions on how best to structure the finance of the firm. Okay, any more answers, guys? I'll wait for a few more seconds. 1090, thank you, Jill. Si Jill naman, 10 yung debt, 90 yung equity. Yung iba, guys, I wish I was seeing others also put their answers on the chat box. So far, I think nakakita pa lang ako ng mga 12 to 15. So kalahati pa yung walang answer. But we are now 29 tayo lahat, no? Sana makakita ako ng 29 answers. Aram, thank you, 2080. Okay, a few more seconds. Tyler, 1090. Okay, thank you, Tyler. Okay, so you see, guys, different answers from you, no? Meron ako nakita kanina 0, 100 or 595. So there are some who don't like debt, ayaw ng utang, no? Wala lang ako nakita, may nakita ba akong may nakita naman yata ako 90-10. Okay, iba naman baliktad, no? I think ang highest dito 80-20. Okay. So there are maybe several justifications why it should be 0 to 100. May mga taong ganun talaga, guys. Ayaw yung hindi makatulog kung may utang, no? On a personal level. Mas parang kampante na makatulog sa gabi kung walang utang, no? And that's a valid reason na walang utang. Okay, yung iba naman, okay, mas mataas yung debt kaysa sa equity. Okay, so what's the answer, guys? What's theoretically the answer? The answer, guys, is that the capital structure, so we're here, no? The capital structure, take a look at it as pag sinabing structure kasi parang building siya, no? Parang building na ito yung debt, ito yung equity. So ang tanong, ilang percent yung equity, ilang percent yung debt? Because if we take a look at the, diba, at the, let's go back to our whiteboard ulit. Okay, so meron tayong, diba, yung accounting equation na assets. Okay. Saan na si whiteboard natin? Okay. So we have this equation, diba? Assets is equal to liabilities plus equity. Explain ko lang to, guys, ha? If we divide everything by assets, no? Okay, so this is 100%. And this is what we call your debt ratio plus your equity ratio. Okay, itong composition na to guys, this is your capital structure. Capital structure, the percentage of your debt and your equity. So I saw different answers sa inyo kanina. May 0-100, may 595, tapos merong 30-70, tapos on the other hand, meron namang 50-50, okay, tapos may 80-20, etc. So ang tanong guys, sino dyan yung magandang capital structure? The answer to that is the capital structure that's the best for a company is the one that optimizes shareholder value. Yan ang answer guys. So kailangan for a company dapat alam niya kung ano yung capital structure na nakakapag-optimize ng shareholder value. Okay? So for companies it will be different, depende sa ano nila, depende sa asset base nila, no? Tsaka depende dun sa yung sa nature ng financing nila. So companies will have different capital, will have different capital structures, no? Optimal capital structures. Now, may mga disadvantages guys kung for example ito, no? Ano yung disadvantage nito? Yung 0-100. Zero debt. Okay? The problem here guys is that debt, okay, yung borrowing, okay, will entail interest expense, di ba? Kasi pag nangutang tayo, may interest expense yan. Actually, kung tutuusin guys, yung debt, nakakatulong yan. Okay? Nakakatulong siya in the sense that, ang tawag sa kanya, leverage factor yan. No? Leverage factor. How does it help, guys? Paano siya nakaka-leverage? Kasi pag may interest, guys, ano mangyayari? So, for example, you have EBIT here. EBIT, no? This is earnings before interest and taxes. Pag walang borrowing, walang ima-minus na interest, no? Interest natin is equal to 0. So this will still be EBIT. Kasi walang interest, walang borrowing eh. So ang mangyayari guys, the tax will be higher. Kasi mas mataas yung tax base, no? Taxable income. Pag may borrowing guys, pag may interest, ang nangyayari, mababawasan yung earnings before tax natin. Mababawasan yung earnings na subjected to tax. So mababawasan yung tax. So in that sense guys, nali-leverage natin, nababawasan yung tax liability ng company. So that's why they say that ang borrowings guys, okay, it's okay Kathleen, no? Mamaya na lang yung attendance, no? So ang borrowings guys, may leverage yan. Okay, so that's why some are saying na mas maganda kung may debt talaga kasi may leverage factor yung debt. I will discuss that guys sa module 4 na yata. No? But on a corporate finance perspective guys, importante na na may debt din yung company. Besides guys, pag may track record tayo ng good credit track record, later on pag may mga businesses na may mga opportunities na mag-engage yung company sa isang business na maganda, then makakahiram. Kasi kung walang track record yung company, medyo either mahihirapan humiram or kung hihiram man siya, tataasan yung interest. Okay, you're correct, Kyla. Sabi ni Kyla, ma-approve for loans. Yeah, that's correct. No? Kasi may track record na siya. Nakitang magaling magbayad dyan. Kasi guys, may mga credit ratings yung mga companies eh. So yung mga nagpapautang, they refer to the credit ratings. Tinitingnan nila kung itong company ba na to ay marami ng utang to in the past, tapos how was the payment record. So may mga rating yan. So kung maganda yung credit history, credit rating ng company, mas madali siya makakahiram, tapos at a lower interest pa. Pag wala pang track record guys, tataasan yung interest ng mga lenders, no? So a company has to start somewhere. And nakakatulong guys yung utang So may leverage factor tayo na tinatawag. Okay? So, should it then be 100 to 0? Kung nakakatulong yung interest, maganda ba kung 100, 0 yung ano, yung yung capital structure? Theoretically, hindi naman pwede yan, guys, kasi dapat a corporation should have capital, no? May return earnings yan, may common stock. But in theory, guys, hindi rin maganda yan. No? Kasi actually hindi ka makakairam ng funds kung ganyan yung capital structure. Nobody will lend you kasi anong anong contribution ng shareholders yan. So theoretically, guys, this is quite impossible. No? Kasi imposible maging 0 yung capital. Ito, pwede pa, yung 0-100. Okay? But again, going back to my question, ano ba yung capital structure na pinakamaganda? The optimal capital structure is the one that optimizes shareholder value. Kung ano man, guys, yung capital structure na ma-optimize yung shareholder value, yun yung optimal capital structure. So there is no one answer here. No? Hindi pa pwedeng sabihin natin na 50-50. 50-50 might be okay for another company but not for another company. So wala tayong sinasabi na iisa lang ang optimal capital structure. It really depends on the company. Okay, so I hope that's clear, guys, yung capital financing. Okay, so that's a very first principle in finance. In creating the capital structure, okay, kailangan na-optimize ng firm yung capital structure nila. Tapos, in determining kung ang investment is a go or no go, kailangan alam natin yung weighted average cost of capital. Okay? Lastly, yung dividends. Yung dividend principle is, ano bang gagawin dun sa earnings ng company? Should it be given back to the shareholders in the form of dividends, or should it be flowed back to the company for its operations? Okay, so this is a very important and one of the most important decisions for corporate finance, to decide how and when to return capital to investors. And there are certain principles that must be followed. Kailan magbibigay ng dividends, yung timing yan, and saka how much. So ito, guys, yung mga key first principles ng finance. Okay, investment principle, financing principle, and dividend principle. So may mga tinatanong na may mga questions na tinatanong, guys, and then there should be sound theoretical answers to these questions in terms of investments, in terms of financing, and in terms of dividends. Okay, so let's take a look at the investment principle. Okay, quickly. Sabi dun sa diagram kanina, dapat mag-i-invest tayo sa assets or projects na dapat yung return niya greater than the minimum acceptable hurdle rate. Anong tawag natin ito, guys? What do we call the minimum acceptable hurdle rate? May pangalan tayo dyan. What's the name for this? It's your, okay, let me see. It's your WACC. Thank you, Kendrick. That's correct, no? Very good. Kendrick, paki to everybody yung pag-send na answer. Okay, so it's your WACC, no? Tama ito. Tama sinabi ni Kendrick, it's your weighted, it's your weighted average cost of capital. Okay, any investment that a company will engage in, dapat yung return yan should be greater than the hurdle rate, greater than the weighted average cost of capital. And then the hurdle rate, yung WACC daw, sabi dapat, should be higher for riskier projects and should reflect the financing mix used, the owner's funds or the borrowed money, debt. Okay, so i-assess dapat yung projects. Itong project ba to, risky to? So dapat kung risky yan, dapat medyo tataasan yung hurdle rate, no? Kasi remember yung principle na although pag-aaralan pa lang natin yung principle ng risk and return. Okay, banggitin ko na dito, no? Risk and return principle. This is a fundamental principle in finance. The higher the risk, so isulat ko dito, the greater the assumed risk, the higher the required return. Required return. Okay, so this is a fundamental principle in finance. If we're going to invest, engage in a project that has a relatively higher amount of risk, dapat yung required return ng project na yan should be greater. No? Dapat mas mataas yung required return na hinihingi natin. Okay? And the hurdle rate, the WACC, guys, should reflect yung financing mix ng company. So ito na yung proportion ng equity at saka proportion ng debt, yung sinabi natin kanina. Okay? So, yun ang investment principle. This is just an amplification of what we discussed a while ago. Okay? So, investment principle, dapat titinan din natin dyan, guys, cash flow. No? So, later on, sana umabot tayo doon, yung isang fundamental principle din aside from risk and return, cash flows are king. Cash is king. Okay. Pag nag-i-evaluate tayo ng project, hindi natin tinitinan, guys, yung profit, not the net income after tax. No? It's not that. The basis for the evaluation are cash flows. Okay? So dapat ang tinitingnan natin, cash flows, hindi yung net income after tax. So later on, guys, pag magka-capital budgeting na tayo, makikita nyo na ang tinitingnan natin yung cash flows. And that's what we're going to assess and base our analysis on. So dapat cash flows, and then dapat may timing. Dapat titingnan natin timing. Ano ibig sabihin ng timing, guys? Okay? We'll have an example of this next meeting. Ano ibig sabihin ng timing? Iba yung 100. Anong gusto nyo, guys? 1 million now or 1 million 1 year after? Sige nga. 1 million at year 0 or 1 million at year 1, after 1 year. Pakichat nga, guys. 1 year later. Okay, Syra, thank you. How about the rest, guys? Ano mas gusto nyo? 1 million ngayon? Okay. Yung pera nyo 1 million ngayon? Magkakaroon kayo ng 1 million ngayon? Or 1 million after 1 year? Which do you want? After 1 year, thank you. Thank you, Erin. Thank you. Okay, 1 year later. Okay. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Ariana. Thank you, Caleb. Okay. Thank you for your answers, guys. No? Pero at this time, guys, thank you, Marco, I will disagree with you. No? Sorry, magdi-disagree ako sa inyo. Kasi mas gusto ko 1 year now. Okay? I don't know if you misunderstood my question. My question was, anong mas gusto nyo, yung magkaroon kayo ng pera? 1 million ngayon or 1 million after 1 year? Para sa akin, guys, mas gusto ko yung 1 million now. Bakit? Kasi yung 1 million now na yun, kung meron na ako niya ngayon, I can put it in an investment, I can put it in a vehicle or an instrument, and then get it back after 1 year. Assuming that the interest is positive, then after 1 year, guys, ang pera ko more than 1 million na. Kunyari, 10% yung interest. So after 1 year, oo, tama. Thank you. So, Syra, i-broadcast mo yung answer mo.
If you get the money now, you have more time to make it grow.
Yes, tama. Di ba? Kung makuha natin, kahit sabihin natin, ipunta na natin sa savings account. Kahit na 1% lang yan. Okay? Kung 1% yan, guys, yung 1 million natin, magiging, that's 100, magiging 10,000. No? May 10,000. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, nag-grow pa yung natin, yung pera natin. Kaysa naman 1 million after 1 year. Okay, bakit ganun, guys? Kasi guys, money has cost. Ang tinatawag natin dyan, the time value of money. Okay, so when we analyze projects, when we analyze investments, dapat titingnan natin yung timing of the cash flows. Kasi magkaiba yung 1 million ngayon at saka 1 million after 5 years. Okay? So magkaiba yun, guys. Ha? Sabi ko nga, di ba, mas gugustuhin dapat natin yung 1 million ngayon compared to 1 million after 5 years. Because if we have the money now, then we can invest it and make it grow so that after 5 years, mas malaki na yun kaysa 1 million. Okay? So yung investment principle, guys, gagamit tayo niya ng time value of money concept. And also cash flows are king. Cash is king. Okay? Sabi nga natin sa finance, talagang pinag-uusapan natin dito, cash. Bakit kaya ganon? Kasi syempre, guys, Pag nangutang ba tayo, anong binibigay, anong inuutang natin, anong binibigay sa atin? Paki-chat nga, guys. This is just a practical reason why dapat cash flow ang tinitingnan natin. Pag nangutang tayo, guys, anong binibigay sa atin? Ano ba inuutang natin? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marco. Cash, di ba? So pag magbabayad tayo, anong ine-expect ng babayaran natin? Promise? Tama, Marco. Cash din. So ganun lang talaga, guys. Yan ang kalakaran dyan. Talagang cash yung pinag-uusapan natin. That's how the flow of funds are. No? Hihiram ka ng cash, magbabayad ka ng cash. Okay? So fundamental principle yun na ano. Yan talaga yung medium of exchange. Eh. Hindi naman mga bato yung ginagamit natin. Diba? Although ngayon, may mga tinatawag tayong Bitcoin, okay, but that's still also, naka-ano din yan, naka-link din yan sa cash. No? Okay, so I hope that's clear, guys. Medyo pinapasok ko na dito yung mga fundamental principles of finance. Then kanina sinabi natin yung principle ng risk and return. Ngayon, yung cash flow is king, pati yung the time value of money. So dapat guys, pag nag-i-evaluate tayo ng investments, dapat titingnan din natin lahat ng cash flows, whether it's an outflow, negative yun, or an inflow. Okay, all things have to be considered. Outflow, yung ilalabas natin ng cash, at saka inflow, yung ipapasok na cash. So that should be considered. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so kanina tinignan natin yung investment principle. Now we take a look at the financing principle. Ano na yung financing principle, guys? First is the business should have a mixture of debt and equity that's optimal. Okay? And guys, hindi cast in stone yan, hindi fixed in stone yan. Sometimes it changes, no? Pwede nagbabago-bago yung weighted average cost of capital because it depends on several factors. It depends, for example, on the prevailing interest rates. Okay? So maraming factors yung nakaka-affect ng weighted average cost of capital. So it's important that companies evaluate their WACC frequently. Hindi naman monthly. No? Sometimes it could be minsan yearly, annually, tinitingnan nila yung weighted average cost of capital nila. Unless talagang may mga drastic changes sa environment. No? That would be a good time also to check yung optimal na WACC ng company. Okay? So, now, ito din, sinasabi ng financing principle, kailangan guys yung matching principle to match the financing to the nature of the assets being financed. Ano ibig sabihin yan guys? Ibig sabihin, kunyari, mag-i-invest tayo, okay, kunyari OPEX lang ang kailangan ng cash. Kailangan, yung financing na gagamitin natin dyan, mga short-term lang din. Okay? Pag long-term project, dapat long-term din yung financing doon. So we will not buy, for example, a 1 billion peso worth of business or land or building, and we will just use a short-term borrowing. Hindi pa pwede yun, guys. Kasi long-term yung assets natin, dapat yung pag-finance din doon, dapat long-term din. Hindi pa pwedeng short-term. Kapag short-term naman yung assets, mga current assets, guys, ang financing na ginagamit yan, dapat short-term lang din. Okay? So hindi pa pwede, dapat may matching principle. I-match natin yung assets na ini-invest na natin to the type of financing. Short-term assets, short-term investing. Long-term assets, long-term investing. Okay? And also, sa financing principle, dapat guys, na-ensure natin ng finance yung constant inflow of capital. Okay? So ito importante yung source of financing, source of funds. Okay? Kasi alam naman natin na lahat naman ng companies may mga liquidity challenges yan. Okay? So kunyari, kailangan ng more inventory kasi may projected na tataas yung demand for the product. Kung hindi liquid yung company, wala silang pangbilin inventory. Problema yon. Kasi that could affect greatly yung potential business nila, no? Yung mga potential customers, potential sales. So kailangan magaling dapat yung finance sa pag-source out ng funds. Okay? Sabi nga dito, savings margin will not allow operations to continue for much longer without the support of additional liquidity. Kaya importante, for example, yung trade payables, na discussion sa accounting yan. Yung tinatawag natin accounts payable. A company should have good relationship with its suppliers para may ready credit na available. Kunyari, bibili tayo ng inventory. Eh kung meron tayong terms with the supplier, kunyari, 30 days or 60 days, then that gives the company some leeway, no, na makabili ng inventory to payable pa after 60 days, kunyari, tapos ma-convert na ito into finished product or mabenta na to. So by the time maging due yung trade payable niya, sana nakuha na niya yung cash, nabenta na niya yung item para mababayaran na niya. So ganun yung tinatawag nating velocity, guys, yung flow ng funds. So pag ganun, guys, maganda yung business ng company. Okay? Nauuna pa niya makuha yung receivables niya bago siya magbayad ng payables niya. Okay? Titingnan natin, guys, sa ratio niyan, yung tinatawag natin na asset management ratios, yung days inventory outstanding, days payable outstanding, at saka days sales outstanding. Okay. All right. So the other one, guys, yung dividend distribution. Sabi natin, this is another first principle in finance. Aside from investment principle, financing principle, dividend principle. Sabi natin, this is one of the most important financial decisions that a financial manager must make. So ang question dito, magkano ba yung ipipay out sa mga shareholders natin? Or how much will be reinvested in the company? And I hope I'm not sounding like a broken record, pero alam natin na yung earnings available for distribution that comes from your net income after tax. Sabi natin, ang disposition nito either flowed back to the operations in the form of retained earnings or return to the shareholders in the form of dividends. Okay? Ano yung advantage, guys, ng dividends? Pag nabibigyan ng dividends yung company. Well, it's magandang perception yan, guys. No? Kasi pag ganyan, pag nagbibigyan ng dividends ang company, ibig sabihin yan na maganda yung earnings ng company. Okay? Tapos pag may retained earnings din siya, ibig sabihin maganda yung prospect ng business ng company. Kasi nagre-retain siya ng funds para to invest it for future endeavors, for other endeavors. Pag ganyan kasi, guys, nakikita ng mga financial analysts yan, and usually nagbibigay siya ng recommend to buy that stock. Pag nakikita yung ganun, yung corporate performance through dividends and through retained earnings, then ang nangyayari, mas maraming gustong bumili ng stock na yan. Pag lumalaki yung demand ng stock na yan, ano mangyayari, guys? Yung from your basic economics, law of demand and supply, okay, tumataas yung nag-appreciate yung share price yan. So that's one way of that the share price of the company will increase through this dividend principle. So nakita natin, guys, directly, no, kung paano nakaka-affect yung dividends ng share price. Okay? Constant, regular dividend distribution is a signal that the company is earning well. Okay? Na stable yung company. Okay? Kaya yung mga blue chips, guys, yung mga companies na maganda yung mga track record, matagal na sila, maganda yung operating performance nila, maganda yung track record nila, they're called blue chip companies. They always pay regularly mga dividends. Because that sends a strong signal to the market na okay itong company na to. So when that happens, many potential shareholders would want to buy that from the secondary market, kunyari, no? From the stock market. Tapos kung tumataas yung demand ng stock na yon, tumataas yung share price yan. And that will benefit the existing shareholders. Kasi tataas yung share price niya. Sabi nga natin, that's your capital appreciation. Okay, so, now, if there are not enough investments that earn the WACC, the hurdle rate, the principle here is to return the cash to the owners of the business. Okay, kunyari, wala namang masyadong, at the moment, wala masyadong magandang business para i-flow back dun ng company, then it might be best to return first the dividends to the shareholders. And kailangan masusing pag-aaral yan na ginagawa ng finance team ng organization. Okay? In the case of pag publicly traded naman, guys, the form of the return can be dividends or it can be what we call the treasury stock or stock buyback. Okay, we'll study this in greater detail next time, guys. Hindi na muna ngayon. But suffice it to say, guys, na meron tayong tinatawag na stock buybacks, okay? Or they are called treasury stock. Ito yung mga stock na binibili ng company ulit, no? Okay, from the market, bibili nila yung own shares of stock nila. Okay, and there are reasons for that, no? So maybe you'd like to read on why companies buy back their shares. There's an obvious reason for that, which I want you to look into or research on. Okay, so okay, we have a few more minutes. Okay, so yung core nito, guys, yung core nito, at its core, finance is all about managing the funds, no, within the organization. Kasama dito yung management ng funds. Ang ibig sabihin, guys, it involves the investment principle and also the financing principle. Tama ba yung optimal capital mix nila, capital structure? Okay, is it the optimal capital structure or hindi ba yun yung capital structure na dapat para sa company? So importante na decision na ginagawa ng finance. May potential investment, okay ba to? Will this earn a risk-adjusted return for the company which is higher than the weighted average cost of capital? Okay, so that's managing the employment of those funds. No? And also, ito yung dividend principle ngayon. I-reinvest ba natin yung earnings or i-distribute ba natin yung iba niyan sa shareholders? Kung i-distribute natin in the form of dividends, ilang percent kaya dun sa earnings natin? So ilang percent yung magiging payout ratio natin? Ilang percent naman yung retention ratio? Okay, so sulat ko lang yan, guys. So ito yung net income after tax natin, no? Oops. Bilis ng oras. Okay. Ito yung net income after tax natin. Sabi natin yung iba, flowed back to as retained earnings. Yung iba, flowed to return to investors, shareholders. This is what we call yung percentage nito is the retention ratio. Okay. Kunyari ito 80%. Tapos ito dividends 20%. Ang tawag dito sa 20% na to is your dividend payout ratio, DPO. No? Okay, yung mixture na yan, no? Retention ratio at saka dividend payout ratio. Okay. So again, guys, this is to summarize. Okay, this is the big picture, no? How do we maximize the value of the business? How do we maximize shareholder value? How do we maximize the stock price? Finance engages in the investment decision, financing decision, and the dividend decision. Ito yung mga diniscuss natin, guys, no? So sa investment, okay, kailangan yung return dun sa investment, guys, dapat higher than the hurdle rate or higher than the WACC, no? Which is just the mix of debt and equity used to finance it. So importante din, guys, sa investment principle, tinitingnan natin yung magnitude, yung cash flow, and the timing of the cash flow, and all its effects, no? Sa financing naman, ito yung optimal mix of debt and equity that maximizes the firm value, and dapat the right kind of debt that matches the tenor of your assets. Pag short-term yung assets, short-term dapat yung utangin, kung debt yun. Kung long-term, dapat long-term din. So may matching principle tayo dito. And then the dividend decision, ilan ba yung dapat ibibigay sa dividends or ilan yung i-retain ng business. So we have here the retention ratio and the dividend payout ratio. Okay. So, okay, yan yung finance function natin. All right, now, it's already time, guys. Time na, no? Hindi pa meron, binago ko pala to. 2 minutes na lang. So, next time we're going to discuss this. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, guys. Na-discuss na natin actually ito, but we will just take a look at this corollary So next meeting, i-discuss natin in greater detail to. 40 plus slides pa pala tayo, no? And mga 16 na lang, mga 15 to 16 slides. And then pupunta na tayo sa part B, which is yung instruments and the markets. And then, so next week, tapos na itong module 1 natin. So briefly guys, cash flow is king, time value of money, the principle of risk and return, the principle of market forces, and ito yung na-discussan natin, the principle of agency problem. Okay, may nag-chat. Okay, sige. Okay, may request dito si Andre. Okay, if, sige. Or kung hindi man PowerPoint, no? Kung hindi man PowerPoint, iaano ko yung PDF, not as handout, but as slides talaga. Okay, sige. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Carl, for pointing that out. Okay? So, nagre-request si Carl kung pwede yung PowerPoint na i-share. Kasi daw masyadong maliit. Okay, sige. Thank you. I'll do that, no? It could be a PDF file pa rin, pero as slides na, no? As slides na, hindi na siya yung handouts. Okay, I'll do that later today after my class. All right. So, one more minute, guys. Ito na lang, ano? So, ito yung mga titingnan natin na principles. So, kung pwede, guys, for next meeting, pakitingnan nyo to kung ano yung ibig sabihin nito. Kanina nasabi na natin to, no? Yung cash flow is king. Bakit cash? Bakit hindi net income yung tinitingnan? Guys, ang hinihiram natin, kung mangungutang tayo for projects, hindi naman net income. Ang hinihiram natin, cash. So, yung mga investors sa atin, whether they're creditors or whether they're shareholders, they also demand cash in return. Okay, yun ang medium of currency natin, medium of exchange talaga, cash. And then time value of money, may cost ang pera. The higher the risk, the higher the assumed the required return. Market forces, guys, and the agency problem. Okay, so I hope you learned something today, guys. We ended in this. Next meeting from slide 29 tayo, no? I-discuss natin to in greater detail. Tapos matatapos natin tong next meeting hanggang slide 44. And hopefully makapagsimula din tayo dun sa next, yung part B ng ano natin. Okay? Did you learn something today, guys? Paki-chat na lang, please, para... okay, yung reaction paper, Syra, I'm going to post an announcement later, no? Kung ano yung deadline ng reaction paper, tapos kung paano yung format na gagawin. Okay? Alright. Paki-chat naman, guys, kung may natutunan tayo ngayon. Okay. Meron ba natutunan? Okay, thank you. Yan, thank you so much for your feedback. Okay, that's good. I'm always happy, guys, kung merong naman tayong stop recording ko.